Welcome, everyone. Y'all, I just be laughing at myself. I'm having such a good time in my mind. Everyone, I just want you to know, welcome back to the space in my head, um, the internet. Some people call me Faith, some people call me Yes, I'm a Unicorn, some people call me some lady on the internet. But to all of those people, I say welcome. Welcome back to this channel, whichever channel you're watching from, because they're streaming from D City Life Sisters. And I'm on Yes, I'm a Unicorn. And I just want to say welcome and good evening. We're back with another live because that's how we're doing it. That's how we're doing it. We're just going live because life is live and I'm live. I just got so amped up. I actually got amped up earlier when I was watching my sister do a live, and I went and I did some other work for my job, for my day job, even though it's night. Had to do some work there, and then had some quick dinner. And then I was just like, I'm going to bring the energy. I'm going to protect my energy. I'm not going to let anything bring me down. I'm excited about going live, and that's what I'm doing right now. So that's what I'm on, guys. Hopefully my internet is a lot better tonight. Hopefully my internet is not acting a fool. But yeah, I'm excited. Thank you so much for joining me. And we're going to go ahead and get started. So if you saw the the title, the thumbnail, you know why we're here. We're talking about writing things down and the importance of writing things down. Now, I had a whole list of things that I wanted to talk about when I talked about writing things down. This is not going to be a one-parter, guys. This is not going to be one video because I am so committed and excited about just like writing things down and analog systems and planners and stuff. Y'all not gonna be able to shut me up about this. But so I'm just gonna go ahead and call this part one. But when I got to the point where I was like capturing some of my thoughts and ideas and like the things that I wanted to speak on tonight, I was actually watching something else, because a lot of times when I'm doing work, especially if I'm doing like something where I'm like organizing files or something sort of like tedious and I don't really need to be like paying attention to numbers and stuff, I'll watch or I'll listen to something in the background. And I was listening to becoming one of my favorite people to listen to. Her name is Terry Savelle Foy, and actually I think her dad was a pastor and an author, but yeah, she's really funny. Like, she has a really fun voice. Like, I just gotta, I guess I gotta address it because I'm getting ready to play a clip. And one of the things she talks about in the beginning of her speeches is her voice. She kind of has like address it because she has like a childlike voice, and I guess people are like taken aback by it. But she's becoming one of my favorite people to watch because every time I listen to something from her, it uplifts me. And sometimes I'm not even expecting it because she's kind of like quirky and she's funny and she kind of pokes fun at herself, but she always has these like really like bomb gems. So as I was preparing to like talk about or like to get my thoughts together for what I wanted to say, I was listening to this at the same time and I was like, I have to incorporate this small clip because it's that good. So hey, Miss Damita Joe, I'm going to play this clip. And actually, this is going to piggyback off of what Miss Damita Joe was saying earlier about the way you talk to yourself. But anyway, without further ado, let me go ahead and play the clip.
Now, here's something I want to challenge you with. If you're not sure if what you're saying is helping you or hurting you, practice making this statement after every phrase. And that's just the way I want it. No matter what I do, I can't lose weight, and that's just the way I want it. I guess we'll never get our house, and that's just the way I want it. I lost another baby, guess I'll never get pregnant, and that's just the way I want it. At this rate, we'll be in debt forever, and that's just the way I want it. If it's not the way you want it, don't let it come out of your mouth, right?
That was a whole word, y'all. That's why I had to share it with you. And it's like funny because it's one of those things where, when I first heard it, because I was distracted doing something else, and I was like, why is she saying that's just the way she wanted? But when she landed that last line, I was like, it makes all the more sense. And I played it back because I was like, I'm working with the Miss Demeter Joe. She's working on me with the way that I talk to myself. And I'm a work in progress, but we had a session last weekend where she was showing me some exercises, and it was so helpful to me because not only were the exercises helpful to me, but she helped me see a different space in my mind. And so when you were talking about earlier about the way you talk to yourself, I felt like you were talking to me again, like you were this weekend. And when I heard this, I was like, I got to talk about that because it's so important the way we talk to ourselves. And when she made that last line so clear, like if it's coming out of your mouth, right? Like you should be saying, and that's just the way I want it, right? Because another person that I follow, her name is Jenny Pitt, and she runs this planner company. And she was talking about the things that come out of your mouth are basically the affirmative. And if you think of it like that, then you're basically everything that you're saying, you're calling into your reality. And it really does make a difference the way you say it, the way because that's what you believe. It's what's in your head. So I just wanted to share that with y'all because it's actually going to tie into what I'm talking about. But I wanted to start it off because that was like, so it blessed me to hear that. And I'm going to take that around with me. So like, especially, I'm not going to be saying, and that's just the way I want it, around something negative. But what I realize is that if I can't say that's just the way I want it after what I say, then I need to check myself. So right now, I wanted to talk to you guys about what we're here to talk about, how writing things down changes everything. And I'm a really big pen and paper type of person. Like, I understand that we're in the digital age and we're on the internet, super highway. And listen, I love the internet. You can do lots of fun things on the internet. But for me, there's nothing like a good pen and paper, a delicious pen and a delicious grain of paper, preferably 80-pound textured, paper with some tooth in it that'll soak up your pen so it doesn't just pull up and smudge, right? So I'm really into pens and paper, so we don't want to get too far into that because we'll be here all night. I just came with a quick message and that's right. I just came with a quick message and I don't want to draw it out. I want to tell you guys how I feel about pen and paper and how I feel like it could revolutionize the way we're doing things. And I just want to bring up Mr. Demeter Joe's comment here. Just made $1 million, and that's just the way I want it. You daggone right. I like that. I like that a lot. So, and that's so funny. I could just see that being an inside joke for us for a while. And that's just the way I want it. So anyway, listen, I'm getting ready to jump into this because I really feel so strongly about writing things down. It's nothing like it. Like I said, I do use digital systems, especially with my work. The place that I work, a lot of people we work remote. So it's like, you can't write everything down. But I notice for me, I'm more productive and I'm more effective when I write things down. And I'm going to hit you with some science to sort of try to get you to see if you are not one of the people like me that loves to write things down. I want to kind of get you on my side because I'm telling you, it could really revolutionize whatever it is that you're doing. So I'm going to bring up my little banners here because I have eight reasons that I'm going to go through. Actually, technically it's 9 because the first thing that I wanted to talk about kind of goes into that from that clip about speaking over yourself and about keeping the right mindset. The first benefit, and this is what we're going to do. We're going to go over some benefits of writing things down. And I just want to speak to some of these points because I'm so passionate about it. Okay. And I'm getting ready to change the way you think about pen and paper. So the first reason I love to write things down is because the practice of writing things down can really protect your energy. And let me expound on that. I have a lot of little notebooks and, you'll see, like, I love notebooks and things like this. And even if you have like a smaller notebook, I carry this thing right here, which has like 4 smaller notebooks. And what I do is I write a lot of things down in these smaller notebooks. I have this card right here that my wonderful sister made me for my workouts, and I'll just keep things in here. But a lot of us have little notebooks and things that we're attracted to. Maybe it's your favorite color, or maybe it has paper that you really like, or maybe it has like a gold trim on the edges, or maybe it has a shiny spiral or something that you're attracted to. I think notebooks are so personal and interesting because if you're attracted to a notebook, it's like you can really capture some of your ideas in there. And my thinking is like, when you have something that you're kind of attracted to, and it evokes some sort of emotion in you, you can start to pour your energy into it. And a lot of times we find ourselves in environments where they're not so nurturing, or like maybe you don't necessarily want to share your ideas with these people around you, or maybe you don't really want to be in the environment. And just the way that you can sort of, like, used to say, like, escape in a book by reading a book, having a journal or a notebook that you really like is a way for you to pour your energy in and protect it. Right. So you don't have to share your ideas. Like, I think there's a quote out there, like, don't share your big ideas with small-minded people, because it'll crush you. Right. It'll crush your dreams. Like, there might be things the ideas that you have, things that you think of, out of sleep, or things that you just are dreaming about, like secretly almost. Like, we talked about yesterday how we care so much what other people think. If you're anything like me, right? And I'm getting out of that, but it is the reality. And sometimes you don't feel comfortable sharing your ideas, especially when they're baby ideas, and you're like, oh, maybe I could, maybe it's impossible, maybe I've never seen it done before, or maybe that's somebody told you that you couldn't do it. You can take a notebook or a journal and you can pour yourself into it, and you can explore little ideas, you can explore big ideas, you can collect information, and you can put yourself into that notebook, and you can protect your energy that way. There's even journaling, right? And when I think about journaling, to me, it's a release. And I'm going to touch on bullet journaling in a second. But one of the things that I used to do at one of my former jobs is I would take my bullet journal with me, and I would sort of escape in it, right? It's like, I have to be here at this job because this is where I work right now. This is how I'm making a living. But when I open this notebook, I can be myself, right? Maybe I have to pretend and smile to everybody that, oh, I love this job and I'm here and I'm happy to, be here and doing this job. But I knew in my mind that it wasn't for me, but I knew I needed to stay there and make the money. So I would pour myself into this notebook, and I felt, well, I was building something. I didn't even realize it at the time, but I was building a bank of ideas, and having that to pour into, it was a protective force for me. So I wouldn't necessarily be like journaling like you would in a journal, but I would be pouring ideas into it, and I would be sort of escaping in my mind the physical place that I was in. So it was a way for me to have my ideas, protect, and sort of express myself, even though I was in a place where I couldn't really do that out loud, right? I couldn't really say, hey, everybody, I hate this place and I can't wait to leave, right? I couldn't really say, like, everything this person is doing is irritating. And I wasn't even necessarily writing that, but it was a way that I could capture my own thoughts and ideas. And one of the things that I would do is I would create an alternative to what I was actually feeling. And that's kind of going into, so it's kind of a cheat here, but when I talk about protect your energy and pouring it into notebooks and pouring it into writing things down, it propels me into one of the methods that I use, which is called the flip it method. Also related to what Terry Savoy just said. Basically, what happens is, as humans, it's just somehow it's easier to think negative thoughts, right? It's like harder to believe positive things. And maybe that's not the case for everybody, but I have read somewhere that, like, the human condition is like, we just, like, for some reason we believe the negativity before we believe the positivity. It's just like, hey, this person's here for you with a big check. And it's like, no, you're kidding. Like, you would believe, hey, they're towing your car before you would believe, hey, there's somebody out there that says they want to give you $5,000, right? It's just like, no, that's, you're lying. But if somebody said, hey, you just got a ticket on your car, you go out there even if you didn't drive. You know what I mean? So it's like we just believe the negativity for some reason. And like I said, it might not be the case for everybody, but for many people that I've encountered and for myself, it's just easier to think that, oh, I can't do it, or it's going to be hard, or something's going to happen. Like, it's just easier to think in that way sometimes. But what I like to do is I don't skip over those, right? I don't skip over anxiety. I don't skip over fear. I don't skip over negativity. I feel that. I feel that thing. And I explore it. It's like, okay, you're not going to go away, right? So let's just think this thing through, right? If things were to go poorly, this is what it would be, right? And I might not even necessarily write that part down, but sometimes I do. Sometimes I write it down. And for that, I use index cards because I don't want a whole notebook full of negative thoughts, right? But I have been known in the past to do like a flip it book. So like, I'll do one where I'll just completely exaggerate the negativity, right? Like my wonderful sister used an example earlier about being late. I'm going to use that example. So I'm late, right? I'm late. I'm on the train. There's nothing I can do, right? I'm not going to stress about it. Let's just think all the thoughts about negative about being late because they won't go away, right? Now, there is another method that you can use. I'm just saying. But if you are finding yourself in the position where you can only think negative thoughts, try this, right? Okay, I'm going to be late. What's going to happen, right? Oh, I'm going to get there. They're going to have a PowerPoint presentation up and I'm going to walk in and they're going to be like, hey, you missed the first 3 slides, right? And we're very angry at you. All 14 of us have been sitting in this meeting and we didn't know what to do before you got here. And we've all just been sitting here stewing in our anger. And so why don't you get up here and present to us the rest of the slides and tell us why you're so important that you couldn't make it, right? I'm just making this up. And then you get up there and it all goes badly. And, next thing you know, they're throwing their shoes at you and then you get kicked out and you're fired. Well, chances are that's not going to happen. Okay. So once you think that out and get really exaggerated with it, you can kind of laugh it off. But let's just say some of it's true. You get there and a couple of people in the meeting are sort of like kind of angry, irritated that, oh, this person is late. That's fine. You know what I mean? Let's think our way through that. Okay, so a couple of people are irritated. Well, they're not really going to affect me. I'm just going to focus on this. When I get there, I'm going to have a bright attitude. I'm going to come in smiling. I'm going to say, oh, okay, well, I'm here for the rest of the day, right? Like, so I'm 15 minutes late and I'll stay 15 minutes late if you want, but I'm here for the rest of the day and I'm going to have a wonderful day, right? This one little speck isn't going to change the majority of the time that I'll be here. So it's like, you think it out, and then you flip it. And then sometimes I'll go a step further and be like, it's a good thing that happened. Sometimes it's like, you're just using the same, analogy here, or the same example. You're late. You don't know why, right? Like, some of us are late consistently, but sometimes you're late. It was nothing to do with what you did. This happened to me recently. I was late for an appointment because, there was a shuttle and it was raining and I had to get off the train. It was like a whole big deal. And I just decided not to be upset, but I don't know. I do feel like I know why I was late that day, but like, you don't know if you missed an accident. You don't know if you were meant to meet somebody. And that's what happened to me a couple of weeks ago when that whole thing happened. Like, I missed my appointment and I met somebody that I wouldn't have ran into, who gave me some amazing information and some confirmation on something. But I would never have met that person if that hadn't happened. So sometimes it's like, okay, this is happening, right? And what can I find that's good about it? What if this was supposed to happen? And these things can only exist if you really explored them, which is why I'm such an advocate of writing things down. Also, one of the things we're going to get into later is when you have a collection of these things, it's really fun to look back on and see sort of like what your mindset was back in the day when you wrote it. But yeah, anyway, just wanted to say the flip it method is a really good method where you write down what you think could go wrong, and then you think out, well, what if it all went better than expected? And that's normally the case. And I'm just going to get away from the late example. And what happens with me is I use this method when I'm planning a lot. So I'll be planning, like maybe it's a big project, right? And it's like, oh my God, I would hate for this to happen. I was planning an office move not too long ago. And I remember I would probably once a week, I would just sit there and think about all the things that could go wrong because there were so many moving parts. It was like this vendor here, this happens here. You know, we got to get this in on time. We got to get this together. I got to communicate with these people. It was just like so many different things. And I remember as we got closer and closer to it, it was like a weekly, almost every other day thing where I was thinking like, what could go wrong here? And what it ended up doing was, because I was using the flip it method, is it ended up making me think about all the little intricacies that maybe I wouldn't have thought about if I was preparing for everything to go right. And so when some things came up that even I didn't plan, I planned out everything else so meticulously that I had time to deal with the stuff that popped up. And so my point there is that sometimes when you map things out and you write things out and you get all in between and betwixt, which is, I don't even know if that's a real word, but I like it. When you get all in between and betwixt them ideas, then you can really bubble out and think about other things that maybe you wouldn't have thought about if you were just holding it all in your mind, or if you were doing it digitally. And no hater shade to the digital folks out there, because like I said, I have to be digital to an extent. I'm on the internet. But there's nothing like a pen and paper, because you can do so many things and it's so flexible. So anyway, the flip it method. All right, let me get into some of these comments real quick. I love that just made $1 million, and that's the way. I just gotta bring that back up. That's just the real right there. Just made $1 million, and that's just the way I want it. I'm just gonna keep saying that. Okay, so Demita Joe is saying that what I'm saying is true. So sometimes, it's easy to go down the negative or the anxious rabbit hole, but it's also very beneficial to then see the other side of it. And I mean, you might even do that the other way. Maybe you're one of those people who never sees the other side of something, and you get sort of like jolted into reality, right? Like maybe you just see the best in everything and everyone, and you find yourself disappointed all the time. You might use the flip it method in the other way and say, okay, this is what it would look like if everything went right like I expected to. But this is what it would look like if some of the things were off. And so what I'm saying is it's a balance. The flip it method works in a number of ways. And so that's one thing. Now let me get into some of my favorite reasons. Now, science does say, there are studies that have been done that show that when you write things down on paper, it enhances your memory retention. Now, when I say on paper, I also have one of those things. It's called a Remarkable, and I like that thing too. Do not get me wrong. It's one of those like, it's meant to feel like real paper, and it's a digital thing. But it captures, your notes. It captures your notes digitally, and then you can look them up. Here's the thing that I'll say. I really am appreciative for it. I'm lucky enough that I didn't have to pay for it out of my own pocket, but I will say that thing has a place and a time. It's nice when you're like, maybe you're traveling, or when you don't want to bring a whole bunch of stuff with you and you have your notebook and you can switch back and forth, but it's not real paper. It's meant to feel like real paper. And they charge you a lot of money just to imitate real paper, but it's not the same thing, right? It's like, it's virtual reality, if you will. It's a bot. And, the thing about digital, and I don't want to just like be shitting on digital, because digital helps, Sometimes, I'll pull out my phone, and I have my phone around me most of the time. And sometimes, like, I just need to get some ideas out real quick. I think that's fine. But what I'm talking about is that's not going to help you retain things in your memory. When you type things out or pump things out in your phone, a lot of times it just kind of like disappears into the cloud, if you will. It's nothing like writing something down, because it takes time to write something down. So you're not going to write down every single little thing. You're going to write down the things that cognitively make sense in connection to your thoughts. And a lot of times, one of the things we take for granted is like when you have paper, there's so much flexibility. You don't actually have to write words. You can write abbreviations. You can draw pictures. You can make doodles. You can, draw a triangle or whatever. You can do whatever you want to do, because that sort of like cognitive connection of pen and paper, and even like the feedback of like a nice pen on a nice sheet of paper, like it's an enjoyable experience. How do you explain that? Like, you can't really get that when you're typing on your smartphone. And I'm not trying to say anything bad about digital devices, but it's just not the same. And if you're comparing the two, the memory retention alone is enough for me to choose paper over digital when possible. Another thing, while we're talking about paper versus digital, is I don't even know if I have this on here, but oh yeah, okay, we'll go here. Reduced distractions. And now I know y'all can vibe with me on this. How many times have you picked up your phone to do something, like to take a note or to look up a tracking number or something, and you get distracted before you even get to what you get? Like, it's like you can't even really call it a distraction, because you didn't even get to the thing to be distracted by something else. It's like I pick up my phone, I'm like, oh, let me see if my sister texted me. I literally undo my phone, and then I immediately see a notification. Oh, I got an email. Let me click on the email. Oh, there's a sale in my email inbox. Let me go to the sale, right? Oh, I bet they have a better price on Amazon. Let me go to Amazon. Oh, let me track my orders on Amazon. Oh, Amazon, let me go look at my bank balance, right? It's just like, okay, I've done 10 things on my phone, and then I put my phone down, and now it's 2 hours later, and I'm like, oh, I wonder if my sister texted me. So it's like the number of distractions on my phone. And then that's not even to mention like the stuff that pops up, like news headlines, or, people going live, like, and how many of y'all have done that? I've been on Instagram before trying to click something on my phone, and then a live notification pops up, and I accidentally click the live notification, and I'd be the first one in there, and it's like, oh my God, I didn't even mean to click your live. So those are just weird moments, that happen to me. But the amount of distractions that happen on your phone are crazy. And when you think about, I just need to write this thing down, or I just need to be one with my thoughts, there's nothing better, in my opinion, than some paper and a pen or a pencil, or even an index card. Oh, I'm a big advocate for index cards. Index cards are amazing. Chef's kiss, amazing. But when you have an analog system set up, even if you're writing in a paper planner or a notebook or an index card, or even like, I like to get this big graph paper from the office supply store back in the drafting section, and I'll just go to town. I'll go to town and I'll be like jotting out things and mind mapping. Like, one thing will lead to another thought, and that thought will lead to another thought. Sometimes what I'll do, and I'll probably make a video about this because I do use both analog and digital. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll get this app that's like a note-taking app, but it's like for voice notes. So it basically takes whatever voice notes you have. Like, let's say you're in a meeting, it's called Otter, and you're taking notes, and it'll put it into text format. Sometimes what I'll do, if my mind is going a million miles a minute, is I'll sit there and I'll just say everything that I want to say I'll do this for work too sometimes, because it's like I've got 50 things going on and I'm like, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to do this, I need to do that. Sometimes writing a list is almost just even so overwhelming because there's so many different areas to touch. So I'll just take out that otter and I'll just go to town and be like, I need to do this, I need to do that. But before I do that, I need to call this person and I need to do this thing. And oh, that reminds me, I need to check on this. Oh, and when was the last time I did that? Oh, and this person sent me this. I need to file that away. Oh, and I need to blah, blah, blah. So then it'll be like a 10-minute thing of me just talking out everything, but I won't stop until I feel like I've unloaded. Then I'll take that thing that I listen to, and I'll either do it on post-it notes or index cards or one of those big sheets of graph paper, and I'll just write everything out and I'll connect whatever to whatever, and it'll just be all of my thoughts, and it'll be so satisfying because it's like, okay, this is everything I have to do. Then I can just prioritize it and hit them up one at a time. And that's another thing, and I just have to say this about index cards, even though this isn't about index cards. I just have to say, writing things down on index cards helps me to prioritize. A lot of times I have like 20 different things that I need to get done in a day, right? It's just, that sounds like a lot, but like it's reality for me, right? Because I handle like 6 different areas at work. So it's like I have to, call these people back about this thing. Then I got to finish this spreadsheet and send it off to this person. Then I have a meeting with this person. I got to prepare for that meeting before. And then I got another meeting with this person. I got to prepare for this. And then I got to do this and this and that. So I'll literally have 20 things that I need to get done that day. And it's like, sometimes a list doesn't even work for me. And I have to go to index cards because looking at the list is even overwhelming. But if I have 20 index cards, it's like, I'm just looking at this one card for this next 12 minutes. And the time it takes me to finish this card, everything else can wait because I've prioritized them and they're in a stack, right? And so I'm going to do the first thing. And then once I do the first thing, then I'll do the second thing. And like, it works for me. And I get 20 things done. And it sounds, maybe everybody gets 20 things done. I don't know. But what I've noticed is when I try to look at 20 things, I only get 5 things done, right? And then I get stressed, and then the next day I have to do, 30 things. But when I'm focused on one thing at a time, I get them all done because I'm just more focused. It's like even emails aren't even bothering me. It's like, I'm not checking your email until I do this first card. And everybody's going to be fine because I'm not a surgeon. Okay. And they're fine. And I do my one thing. Sometimes I'll do 2 or 3 things and then I'll check my email. So anyway, this isn't about that, but it just reduces distractions. Writing things down on paper or on an index card, it allows you to be focused in the moment, take it slow. We're human beings. We're not robots. And writing things down can be enjoyable and it reduces distractions. I've already been on here for 30 minutes. I can't even believe it. I'm going to keep going, but I'm going to quicken it up. So the next thing that pen and paper does is it improves creativity and personalization. A lot of people I notice do not like their own handwriting. I guess I suffer from that sometimes, but for the most part, I like my handwriting. I like perfecting my handwriting. I take every opportunity to be like, I'm going to write this slow so I can work on my handwriting, right? And I like to use like different color. I got something over here. I like to use different color pens and markers and highlighters. And it's like, if I have to do the work, then I want it to look nice, and I don't spend a whole bunch of time, but it's like it's pretty easy to take out a blue highlighter and write in in an orange pen or whatever you like, and then it's prettier and it draws you more to the work. And so but it's improved creativity, and like you might draw something on there and you might just get a little bit more excited about it. And when you can do that on a piece of paper, it's just a lot more flexible than like maybe like a document where you can't write in the margins, right? You can highlight, but you can't like really, you can do like track changes and stuff like that, but it's in comments, but it's just not the same as when you can highlight something and say, check on this, or this is important, or put an exclamation mark. Like, it's just a lot easier and a lot more flexible, and it's more creative when you can start to make your own little, little icons. Like, these are going to be smiley faces, these are going to be hearts, and you know what I mean? Like, you can do whatever you want to do. Maybe you're not that person at all. Maybe you just want to write in black and white, but you can do whatever you want to do. You can do 5 columns, you can do 3 columns. It's a little bit trickier to do that on a document. Not to mention, because I do work in the digital like space, sometimes I just need to flip back and forth. And it's like having so many tabs open just hurts my brain. Even though I have to do it and I'd be having like 17 screens. But it's like, I got to look at this thing to check it off of this thing. And then these tabs are up, and then I got to close these tabs. It's like, sometimes it's just easier to just write it down and turn pages. And I know I got it right here in my notebook, or I got it on my cards. So improve creativity and personalization. That's a thing. All right. Spatial awareness and flexibility. We already kind of talked about flexibility, but spatial awareness, I just want to touch on this because one of the things that I also like to do is, like I was talking about when we did this move, I was able to just like jot things out and put squares, like this is going to be a bookcase and this is going to be a chair. Sometimes I need that for other things too, not even necessarily like a move, but like how much time I'm taking to do a thing. How many of us have an issue with putting too much on our plate and then thinking that we're going to get a whole bunch of stuff done? Like, I'm guilty of this on the weekends. Like, I already told you, sometimes I have to do 20 things at work. And even on those days, if I prioritize well and I only get to 10 or 12, it's fine. That's all I could do, right? I'm not gonna bend over backwards or hurt myself trying to do the 20 things. But if you can prioritize it, then you did the most important things, and so that's all you could do. But like, I think mostly I'm a repeat offender of this that I'm about to explain on the weekends. For some reason, I wake up on Saturday morning like Superman, and I'd be like, I'm going to do 20 hours of things in the next 10. And it's like, I don't even make the connection that like, this is going to take 2 hours to do this one thing, and this is going to take 3 hours to do the second thing. And it's just like, it's easy to lose track of that. So what I like to do is I'll write bigger when something takes more time, right? So like, let's say it's going to take 3 hours to like clean the bathroom, which is not the case, but we're just go with it. We're here. Okay. It's going to take 3 hours to clean the bathroom. I'm going to write clean bathroom large. And then it's like, call mom. That'll be smaller. So when I talk about spatial awareness, it's like, you can't really do everything. Everything doesn't take the same amount of time. Like, you can double up. I mean, I can do laundry and something else because I'm not physically washing the laundry. It's like, it only takes 10 minutes to like sort out and put some stuff in the laundry, and then I can go and do other things. But like, not a lot of things are like that. They're not built like that. You kind of have to focus. So when I look at like my day and the time that I have, it's interesting to think about spatial awareness and flexibility. And flexibility we already touched on, but it's like you can just do so many things with paper, like write big. And it might just be silly to do that on a Google Doc, right? Like, oh, I'm just gonna make this 127 point font. It's like, why bother? Okay, now we're getting to the real ones, and we only have 2 more left after this. Mindfulness and improved brain function. Guys, studies show, you can Google this stuff. This is real stuff. You have an improved brain function when you write things down. It's just the truth. Handwriting stimulates your brain, and it's associated with language. Language is, pictures are associated with memories. There's certain things that, like, your cognitive functions, the way that humans are built. If you think about like the hieroglyphics and stuff that were on the walls in ancient times, we are attracted to those types of things, to like making our marks. And now we use paper. We don't necessarily, well, people do still do graffiti and art and things like that, but What I'm saying is your brain functions in a specific way, and it has to do with making your mark. And so even mindfulness, like I touched on this a little bit earlier, but when you're thinking about writing something down, you're not going to write down every single word that comes to your mind. You're going to kind of paraphrase, you're going to bring it back, you're going to abbreviate, and those things, you're only going to write things down that have the most importance or the most impact. And so it improves that when you're writing things down as opposed to just typing everything out. Sometimes I'll be typing things and I don't even remember typing them. It's like it's just like I'm thinking, which is it's a benefit sometimes, right? You could just mindlessly type, but sometimes I go back and read my notes and be like, did I write that? Like, and I did. It's my notes, but it's like I didn't even connect to that, right? Like it happened so sort of like beyond my spectrum that it's a little scary if you think about it. It's like my brain is automatically functioning without my sort of like sign off. So that's another thing about writing things down is like the mindfulness, and your brain is really a part of sauce. Like you're actually aware, present, functioning in the moment. So there's that. Okay, 2 more, guys. Reduce eye strain. We spend so much time on our computers, looking at TVs, looking at our phones, looking at our devices, our iPads, our, all this stuff. And, I have these glasses, and these are readers, but they have the blue blockers. So if you don't have blue blockers, you're out here on these streets living real strange. You know what I'm saying? But that's okay. I'm not going to judge you. What I'm going to tell you is that you might want to look into some paper stuff. Like, even this isn't even on the list, but like I like to read real books. I love the smell of paper. Guys, I'm a weirdo. Okay. I just got a couple new books the other day, and the first thing I did was open them and smell the paper. And I do that every time I get a planner. I do that every time I get a notebook. It's just like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm looking for. Well, I do know what I'm looking for. It's that beautiful new paper smell. And that's another thing that's not even on the list, guys. When you write things down on paper, you get to smell the paper. And that's the best part of life. Okay, so basically, compared to digital, I don't smell my computer anymore. No, this is just joking. I never smell my computer, or maybe when I first took it out of the box. But after that, I stopped. And it's not the same. You know what I'm saying? Like, paper is just sexier. Okay. Sorry, I didn't make the rules, but it also reduces the strain on your eyes. I like paper books. I like physical books because I get to point at it, and I get to, underline, and I get to highlight, I get to fold the pages back. I get to really become, TD Jakes has a really funny way of explaining this as well. He talks about how he becomes one with the book. He's like, I like to get a little jelly on the book. He's funny when he comes to that. I don't like to get jelly on my book, but I get how personal it is. Pages are personal. I think that's going to be a saying of mine if that doesn't already exist. Pages are personal. You can make them personal, right? Your computer isn't really personal, but pages are personal. And that's just the beauty of it. Okay, last one, guys. Accessibility, security, and a tangible tactile record. I really poured my heart into these, these points. But as our last point, it's 3 points in one. So I really cheated here because I guess I had 10. But accessibility, meaning, a lot of times, I'm a repeat offender of this. Sometimes my phone isn't even charged. I was on the phone earlier, and I literally got down to 1%, and I got scared. Like the phone was about to cut off. But that happens to me a lot. Hate to admit it, but it's real, right? Like your phone could cut off, or like yesterday when I was going live, my internet was weird. Internet was weird all day yesterday. I was working on a spreadsheet of using like Google Sheets. And, when you're not hooked up to the Wi-Fi properly, you can't even plug in the stuff into the sheets. But my paper is there, You know what I'm saying? It's also when I write something down, I'll remember like where I wrote it on the page and what color. It'll be like, that's towards the back of the book on the left side in the top corner, and it's in orange ink next to a pink sticker. It's like I remember all of that, but when I write something in a document, I can barely remember which document it is. I just be searching for stuff. But accessibility, paper's always there. You can always find a pen. Security. Now, this is take this with a grain of salt. Everybody knows about being hacked, especially Chaz from Ready to Love. But when you talk about security, it goes twofold. Now, I'm not one of those people who like writes my passwords down in my notebook, because I don't want anybody to find the notebook and be able to log into my bank account. But you could do other things like writing code or something like that. Like me and my sister used to have this cool way of writing things in code. But if you have a way to do that, that can be semi-secure. But when I'm talking about security, it is kind of twofold. Number one, people always say like, well, if I write it down, then if somebody finds it, then they're gonna know all my secrets, whatever. And I guess they're thinking, I'm talking about journaling or whatever, but I write things down for work all the time. I don't write down all the details. And then I think it's a little arrogant to think that way sometimes, as if like, I'm not I'm not Beyonce. It's like nobody's gonna find my journal and be like, I'm gonna sell this on eBay. It's somebody's journal. Like, you might be curious about it, but especially if you don't know the person, you probably wouldn't care. Like I can't ever remember picking up some random notebook. I barely want to touch the buttons on the elevator. So I'm not getting ready to go pick up somebody's notebook and go flipping through that. Like that's ridiculous. I think we're giving ourselves a little bit too much credit when we're thinking about how people are going to go through. Now, take that with a grain of salt. Like I said, I wouldn't put my passwords in there to my bank account. But when you're thinking about just writing down your thoughts and dreams and things like that, like I don't think there's like a real big push or hacking method for people like breaking in and reading people's journals. Maybe that's a thing, but I don't think people really care. I don't think it's as valuable to other people as it is to you. So security works in a couple of ways there. But what's really nice is, when you're talking about like your thoughts and feelings, I would be more concerned about somebody like finding the link to something that I wrote, or like if I have my laptop open, like I would think, and it's more accessible to the world. If somebody gets into your email, it's more likely, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I feel like security, it's a twofold type of thing, but I feel like my ideas are more secure in my notebooks. I feel a sense of security when I'm writing in my journal because I don't feel like I'm going to accidentally share the link or somebody's going to come up into my files, and you know what I'm saying? Like I feel a sense of security when I write in my notebooks and my journals. I don't know. I guess it's a personal thing. But the last thing that is the most beautiful thing about writing things down is having a tangible tactile record. There are so many times that I'll find like an old notebook and I'll go through it and I'll just be reading the pages, and a lot of the stuff that I had dreamed has already come to pass. And it's so interesting to be thinking like, wow, I really wanted this thing. I really wanted this car, or I really wanted to get into this program, or I really wanted to do this type of work. And here I am like, or, oh, I did that 2 years ago. That's interesting that I was writing that 5 years ago. And that just happened 2 years ago. Like I didn't even put it together that, I've been striving towards this thing and it's actually come to pass. A lot of times we forget who we were and what we were going through then. And then we have what we have now, or we're looking at the past. And I call out a couple of people in my life for doing this, because we are all guilty of this. But it's like you kind of beat yourself up like, oh, I should have done this, or I should have done it this way, or I had all this time, I could have handled this way. But it's like, no, you were doing the right thing the entire time. You had your eye on the ball. You were focused on what was the priority at the time. Now, just in retrospect, because you don't have a tactile, tangible record, you're just kind of beating yourself up thinking like, oh, I could have done that better. But if you go back and look at what you were actually doing, if you have the access to that, then you'll see that, like, oh yeah, I forgot that was happening. I forgot I bodied that, right? Like I handled that thing. So, having that record is very valuable. And a lot of people in my community and the planner community, they talk about, keeping journals and things for their children. Like, I do think that's very cool when, sometimes when people sort of pass away or whatever, and you find their old journals, like your grandma's old journal or your great aunt's, photos and stuff like that. It's really cool to have that tangibly. And I don't really think, and I could be wrong here, but I don't really think we're going to feel that sentimental about digital files. I don't think we're going to really feel that connected to our humans that we're the offspring of by looking at their old emails. I don't know, we might, but I don't see that happening. It's nothing like seeing someone's handwriting and the paper, and even like, like the worn and tethered, notebook, and the color changed, and it's just like an antique, and you're like, wow, this was from 1934. This is really amazing that this person was writing this, and they were here at this particular time. Like, I think that's a lot cooler than what our folks are going to find 60 years from now, which is like old emails, like to whom it may concern. And I don't know. Listen, I'm not trying to shit on anybody's lifestyle. I'm just saying, for me and mine, we write eyes on paper, okay? And we're keeping digital files. We're doing all the things, everybody. Hey, we're on the internet. So let me know what you think in the comments. Do you like digital versus paper? Do you prefer paper? Do you like a specific kind of pen? Okay, we're going to get into all of this in these lives, honey. We about to go live every chance we get, because this is what it is. But I want to know, do you prefer paper and pen or paper and pencil, or do you prefer digital? What's your paper life looking like? Do you have a paper planner, or do you use Google Planner, or what do you do? I'd really like to know. So thanks so much for watching. If you're watching on the replay, make sure that you like and share this video, subscribe. I'm on a mission here. I don't really know exactly where I'm going to end up, but I know that I'm going to go live more, and you're going to see this face. Okay? So get used to it. Okay. So Miss Demita Joe says, I love paper and pen. That I know about my good sister. And her handwriting, I'm just going to show off my sister's handwriting because we're here, everyone. She made this card for me because she's helping me with my fitness journey. Look at this handwriting. She wrote out all of these exercises for me to do. I'm just going to swipe it across like I'm Vanna White. But look at that. You wish your handwriting was that neat. I do. But, listen, we can all strive to be better. But Miss Demita Joe definitely loves paper and pen. We have that in common. And she said, ooh, and a good mechanical pencil is good too. I love me a good mechanical pencil, but I really like those. It's nothing like a fresh bouquet of wooden pencils. Okay. And I say that because it's from a movie, You Got Mail, I think, with Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks. But when that line was spoken in the movie, I remember thinking like, oh my God, someone understands me. A fresh bouquet of pencils. I don't know if you know what I mean by that, but like the way a freshly sharpened pencil smells, and like to have like 12 of them sharpened and just ready for your use. It's just a beautiful thing. And so sometimes I'll sit there and I'll sharpen like 4 or 5 pencils. I just did it the other day, and I put them on the table, just like ready to go. Like we get ready to just write our life out. That was another thing that I had written down that I wanted to say as I'm ending this. There's this idea that, you could actually write your future. I might have even put that in the thumbnail. Like, one of the things that I like to do is script out what I want. And that's kind of like what we talked about with the flip it method. It's like focusing on what you want. And that's a beautiful thing about writing and having that tactile record, is to write what it is that you're striving to do, what you really want. You can actually write your future out. And that's how I look at paper. So anyway, thank you so much, Miss Demita Joe, for the love and for the participation. I'm gonna be going live more often, as you know. But thanks everybody for watching, and I hope that you enjoyed the live. Let me know below and comment, and let's talk about it. This is only the first of many, so let me know what your preferences are: paper, pen, pencil, all that good stuff. Thanks so much for joining. Bye. See you next time.